Now,
Wait. I think
what are you putting up to the screen? Is it your phone or your iPad?
my phone. You're on my iPad.
Are you standing your phone up like this?
What?
Are you standing your phone
Nope.
up like this?
Nope. My phone is horizontal.
That's how your phone should be.
My phone is horizontal. And I'm going live again. And we should be live. Dave Getchick live. Okay, but we're live. Dave, we're live. Okay,
We're live.
Okay, Buddha, we're live. It's like you're here, man.
I know. Nothing's telling me that we're live, though, Dave.
Okay, but we're live. We're live.
Okay, did you hit the start button so other people can see us?
I think I hit the start button so other people could hear us. They could hear us right now, I think. But I didn't walk around my desk yet. Okay, but I mean, I think I should be going. I don't think it's frozen. I'm going to check my audio, which is down here. Hello. Hello. Okay, I have an audio check here. And, yes, my audio is working okay. I'm going to start my show, Dave.
I hope you're actually on.
No, I am on, but I understand what's going on. Okay.
I mean, I can't see you on Facebook, Dave, is what I'm saying.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. There we go.
Is there a theme song or something?
There we go. Okay. It gets more complicated every day. Okay. But I think that'll be on in a second here. And I think that you're going to be on. You can probably see yourself in the corner. Okay. And Robin, try again, Robin. Okay. This is funny. Okay. I'm gonna boom. Okay. I want to take Robin. Robin's seen this. Okay. Oh, there's all kind of moving. There's too many moving parts to this thing. Okay. I'm gonna. Hi, David. I think I'm gonna start the show. What do you think? Okay. Let's start the show. And okay. Let's pretend that this is just starting now. Okay. Just starting. Here we go. And I know that I sound okay because I hear myself finally. Wow, I got everything here, man, including buddies. This is cool. Thank you for inviting. Thank you for inviting me into your camper in Tennessee. Thank you for inviting me to your cabin in Wisconsin. Thank you for inviting me into your home. Thank you for inviting me into the bathroom. I don't want to be in the bathroom, but thank you for inviting me there. My name's Dave. I'm okay. Yes, people are talking to me from the bathroom. I have this NSA thing, and it's a magic mirror thing that I could actually see who's watching me. Okay, and through this magic mirror, I could like tell and see who's on there. And I see Jim, and I see Anna, and I see Christine, and I see all kind of people. Anyways, thanks for joining me tonight. I got a really bizarre show. It didn't intend to be this bizarre. It makes me want to drink, and I hope Sheila's there to have a drink with me tonight. Maybe Robin will have a drink with me tonight. And anyways, I've had a amazing week, actually. I have seen some acts of kindness and generosity from people and from places that I never intended to see them. And it convinces me more and more that things suck right now in a lot of ways, and it convinces me more and more that we just need to work together a little bit, and we need to look at the guy next to us and say, hey, let's do something and let's help each other out. And I hope that tonight we do a little bit of relaxing, and I chill you out and I throw you out a little bit. We got Christine Swanberg on a little bit later. We got Jared Smith on a little bit later. We're going to have some special guests popping in, and I got speaker phones going on, and I have video going on, and I got a guy here waiting to go on screen, and I'm going to bring him on screen right now. And ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, David Buddha Hartgarten. Let's hear it for him.
Hi, everybody.
Let's hear it for him.
Yay, Steve!
Hey, David. I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here, Dave. How you doing?
I don't know. This is working bizarrely, but it is working. Actually, you can't see this, but I actually have duct tape holding some of my equipment together here. Um, I have a 6, 7 year old.
That's a personal problem.
I know. Where's my duct tape? I had duct tape here just in case I needed to repair something. Oh, here's my duct tape. Yeah, I need this all the time. I mean, I worked with a lot of ducks, and sometimes I should use this on my mouth actually.
And apparently a lot of ducks that are falling apart.
Yes.
Um,
How is the where I saw you in the poetry bomb, and
yes.
I thought that was cool. I
I
noticed
doing the poetry bomb.
one of the hardest things to do when you're doing this is to see that Robin Fine just said, "Hey Dave," and Sheila Donovan says, "I see and hear you," and Buddha, and she says, "Oops, I don't have a drink." So it's really hard to read that and look at the camera because there's no audience there.
It is, and I would really like to, like I said, I have a friend who does like Saturday concerts from his garage on Facebook Live, and his wife actually sits there and reads the comments at him so
Mm-hmm.
he can answer them. And I didn't think about that.
Yeah, but when we're mostly solo, there's a problem
Yeah,
with that.
yeah.
I mean, what?
It doesn't matter though because apparently I don't know the how to tell the passage of time. I swear I only read for 10 minutes yesterday, but it turned out to be like a half an hour.
it was, and I kept on asking you to do the rock, okay, and he did the rock at the very end, and I liked that. That was cool. I don't know. That's my.
Well, rock is my greatest hit, man. Everybody loves that poem, and you know sometimes I feel that it's like asking the Rolling Stones to do satisfaction. They'll do it, but they don't always wanna.
Mm-hmm. Do you find it different not being in? How is it different not being in front of a live audience?
Um, for me, it's very different because my shows were always interactive with the audience. You know, I would when I didn't so much host as converse with people. So you know, we would go off on tangents, and I swear I had a whole show where we did nothing but talk about Buckaroo Banzai. I swear.
Right now, I'm talking to you, so it's a lot
Right.
easier. But
It is.
when you're talking to nothing, it's an entirely different thing. You're into the ether. You're talking into a void, and and I don't know if this is going to be the future of what we're going to be doing for a while. It might be. I don't know. I find the same thing when I'm out in public. When somebody has a mask on, and I don't know if they're smiling or frowning or sticking their tongue out at me.
Which is actually one of the great things about wearing a mask. Nobody knows if I'm smiling or frowning or sticking my tongue out at them. Which the third one is probably mostly the case because I can't. I'm wearing a mask.
Do you think that we could have done more for the poetry bomb? I mean, I was disappointed because I went on Twitter and nobody tweeted. Is there something that we need to plan and do something different?
I'm not sure about the Twitter platform. I mean, you're limited to a certain number of characters, and I don't know if you can actually film yourself live on Twitter.
No, you cannot.
While I was doing Facebook Live yesterday, Stevie was shooting a piece for Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And he only did the one poem, which disappointed me a little because it's Stevie and you always want to hear more.
Yeah. Stevie has like he's. I always thought he was a poetry stylist, where he could take any poem and make it into a Stevie poem. I mean, that's one of the great strengths that I think he has in a performer.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of discovered him. Actually, Dina discovered him. She dragged him into a reading that Lawrence Tyler was doing out in Blue Island, actually, and that was the first time I met Stevie. Um,
You discovered him, but Stevie and I made each other famous.
how did you make each other famous?
It was weird when we started hanging out. We met at one of those big old poetry reads. I think it had to be the um, um, we used to have them every summer. What are they called?
Was CJ's Chicago Poetry Festival? He had one in
Right.
2008, 2009.
And Stevie and I met before that, but we didn't hang out before that. And then we were both reading at the poetry festival in the deep sub basement of this hotel. I think Janet had arranged it, and it was like coinciding with some kind of reporters conference.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Um,
And
I remember. Okay, do you
that's
know?
when Stevie and I first started hanging out.
It,
And
next week I'm going to try to play the JJ movie. I'm saying I'm going to try to play the JJ movie because there's some music and stuff like that. And if Facebook sees something that it recognizes, the robots recognize as copyrighted, they mute you. So we'll see what happens next weekend. I got permission from the director to do it, but in that building at that time, there was a police conference, and the people who had arrested JJ were at this police conference. And I remember I ran into the director and the camera crew outside that hotel. It was like right on, I think it was on Illinois Avenue actually, or Grand Avenue, somewhere over there. Janet has some weird readings sometimes, and that was a stranger one.
okay.
Um,
The thing about JJ, and JJ and I weren't super close. We just kind of respected each other's work. The man was a hell of a writer.
Mhm.
Still is, I'm sure. But it's on some level we should have known something was going on. I mean, if you ask people, have you met J.J. Jameson? And they respond, you mean the guy Peter Parker works for?
Anybody who really knew him knew there was something not quite right about JJ, but I didn't know that he was a double murderer, basically. I think that there was a lot of alcohol involved in that, actually.
Yeah, and in my head, that wasn't J.J. Jameson, that was Norman Porter.
Yeah.
I never met Norman Porter, I've only met J.J. Jameson.
Basically, when Norman Porter came back, J.J. Jameson disappeared. So what other poetry stuff do you have planned in the future?
I don't know yet. I'm trying to figure out a way to do something like this, only as an open mic and have like the little boxes, the other poets on the screen. But I haven't quite figured that out yet. I don't know how many people are interested in it, and I don't know what kind of platform I have to use. Unfortunately, to use this platform, like you said, it's only 40 minutes a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And open mics for 40 minutes is, that's like 6 people and, and hosting duties, and that's about it.
Yeah, and it's hard to host and actually run a show and run a video and tech at the same time. It just doesn't work very well.
I think if you're not aiming things at other screens like you are, it might be easier. But you've gone all out with the multimedia extravaganza.
I just play and I have no idea what I'm really doing.
and duct tape.
I needed the duct tape. And I'm going to ask Christine Swanberg to call me on the Puddin'head number. Because I got Christine Swanberg's phone number programmed and the other thing. So hopefully this phone's going to ring really soon with Christine Swanberg.
Right. I haven't started it yet because it's way too early, but we moved the pentathlon to October
Mm-hmm.
last year, and that seemed to work out better for everybody. So we're probably going to do that again. I'll have
Okay.
to put my team. I'll have to put my team back together and see what's up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Len and Bob um, and my judges. Um, there's already been some smack talk, but between would-be contestants for next year,
Really?
including Esteban Colon, who wants to compete, but he's answering the glove that's been thrown his way by Kristen Latour.
Okay. Who has won the pentathlon?
Oh God, lots of people.
Like, can you give me some winners?
Billy Tuttle
Okay.
twice. Dave Abatangelo, Jennifer Dodson,
Okay.
Jan Boglieri,
Uh-huh.
Donna Boyer.
And here we got a phone call. Hello?
I'm guessing it's for you.
Oh, Christine, this is you. Okay. Hi. No, it's me. Anyways, let me finish up with David and say hi to David. I know you don't know each other very well, and then I'll let me finish up with him, and then we'll put you on. I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. There's Christine.
Hi, Christine.
And Christine has background noise.
Hi, David.
Hi, Christine. Got lots of background noise from you. Okay, Christine, turn off the feed, okay? Turn down the sound on.
Later than when I actually say it.
Yes, it is. But can you turn down the volume on your Facebook? Hey, anyways, David, I'm gonna do this with JJ's movie next week, and I want to. Can you come on the week after that and we could talk some more?
Sure.
Here I am.
Okay.
I'd love to.
Okay. Say hi to Christine. Here she is.
Hi again, Christine.
Can you hear Buddha?
Oh yeah, but I have to turn it up to hear him.
Okay. I'm sorry
Hi there,
about
David.
I'm sorry about the tech stuff. We're trying to figure all this out. And anyways, David, let me kick you off, and I'm going to talk to Christine for a while. We'll get you back in 2 weeks, and I'm going to send you an invitation to pop in a little bit later, like we talked about. Okay. Okay. Let me talk to you later. Bye. Hi, Christine.
Hi, David.
Christine, we got lots of feedback coming out of you.
Hello, David.
Hi, that's better, but there's like 1,000 voices behind you.
It's very strange because the sound doesn't come out when we're talking at the same time.
Yes, it doesn't come out, but it comes out on the telephone, and we have this big echo going on. So can you turn that off, the sound off, or turn it down?
Okay.
Okay.
Is that better?
Oh, that's perfect.
Okay.
That's perfect. How are you? How are you?
Oh, I'm good, thank you. Everything considered.
Sorry about all the mess up at the start of this thing. I was trying to do some new tech stuff, and it was working very strangely. But I wanted to tell you, and I wanted to tell everybody in the audience that you were you had this book published by the Erie Street Press called, I believe, Tonight on This Late Road, which I have a copy on the other side of the room, but I'm too lazy to go and pick it up. I actually got a wall full of poetry that I could see right over there, and somewhere in there your book is. But anyways, I was impressed by that book, especially by that poem, and I realized that, wow, this is a real live poet that is like nearby, not that far away. So I guess I was a lot younger then.
Yeah,
Because
we all.
you were probably about 20 years old or so.
No, I was
But
actually about 35.
okay,
You
okay,
keep forgetting
fine.
that I'm 70.
Yes, you were 35 there, and I was about 16. Okay,
Yes, so there you
okay,
are.
I was about 16, maybe 17, when I was at Left Bank Bookstall in Oak Park, and I ran across this book, Tonight on This Late Road by Christine Swanberg, and I was impressed by that book, and I said, wow, this is a real life poet. So you were the first real life poet that I like identified through a book, and I was able to meet later.
Well, that's actually quite astonishing to me, because I sort of feel that, living in Rockford as I do, sort of obscure, and the fact that we would get together later and you would actually end up doing two of my books is one of those little poetry miracles, you might say.
Well, you had sent me a manuscript. I think it was for the whatchamacallit, the red lacquered room or something.
It's funny you should mention that because I'm actually going to read that poem tonight. I was thinking about that, yes. But that ended up getting published elsewhere.
Yeah,
Yes.
you sent me the manuscript, and by the time I said yes to the manuscript, you already found another publisher, and I was kicking myself for years because of
Yeah,
that.
and here's the crazy thing. How often does that happen to a poet? I mean, when I think about that, it sort of blows my mind.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I was able to work with you later in life.
Yes, yeah, I think we started out around 2010 maybe, and then about 2012, if I've got this right, the Alleluia Tree came out, and then about 5 years later, the Wild Fruition came out.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been working together almost a decade.
And,
Isn't that wild?
and both books are available on the Puddin'head website.
Absolutely.
So, and I need to I need to do some techie stuff here right now. Hey, can you read us a poem right now?
Yes,
While I sneak off and do
you
some
had
techie
asked
stuff?
that I read the title poem of Tonight on This Late Road, because that was one of the ones that you had enjoyed so much. And so I will. It's a little dated. There's a reference to Van Halen, so that tells you how long ago this was written.
Van Halen.
So this is Backroads.
He made me want to jump.
Yes, absolutely. He made me want to smoke cigarettes.
Okay.
I stopped that. Okay, Backroads. You like to be alone. You camp, watch moths burn and wonder. I see your brown corduroys, your boots leather-laced, your knees up, contemplating something I do not see. I drive my fast car on these back roads and know we would be friends. I like to be alone, but I have not become the moth, the fire, the dirt in my nails. But slowly, slowly, I am becoming this thin road, this fog, these sparse Midwest trees, and the crow. A shooting star pierces a field of wheat. There is a crater in my hand that wants to turn toward you. In our open palms, stars locked, and I cannot unlock them. The best I can do is the worst I can do. Accelerate, turn up the radio, drive home again. Tonight, on this late road, when the sky is past indigo and the stars are just there, I light a cigarette and blast the radio. Van Halen screams, jump. Go ahead and jump. My foot arches against the pedal. One hand grips the wheel. I race the yellow line and think again of you, having to get somewhere but not knowing where. Something like going home. Something about being lost in a galaxy, which may be lost in a universe. I like to think I know where I'm going. How hard for you, unable to say who you are or even pretend.
I always want to clap. I don't know if it's you're supposed to do that online on video or not. I think we're supposed to all be like really sedate and cool on video. I'm not sure. I remember. Did you see the moon and the stars out? The moon and Venus out the last
Oh,
couple
yes,
of days.
and as a matter of fact, I think it was 2 or 3 nights ago, Jupiter and Saturn had aligned as well. So it's spectacular. It's straight across the horizon, which you almost never see.
Uh huh.
And then, of course, the moon itself was this tiny little sliver of a moon. It was really cool.
And I remember. I remember one of my favorite readings that you did was that night, that evening, we had gone out to that prairie, and
Yes,
and
Wilson's Prairie, way out on Route 20. Mm-hmm.
that was like one of the like last original prairies or something in Illinois.
Yes, it's pretty much untouched. I mean, hardly anyone even knows about it. It was just a wild thing to even be invited to do that.
We walked.
I knew that. I know some people that are involved with Severs and Dells and Natural Land Institute, and so that's how that all kind of came about.
Well, we walked around and had a tour and looked at all the plants on the looked at all the plants that were going on there, and they pointed out the different types of prairie flowers and stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
And then right at sunset, right. It was the day that the sun was setting and the moon was rising at the exact same moment. And that was the moment.
That was the whole idea.
That was the moment you started reading your poetry.
They wanted a poem because they thought that was such an interesting thing that that at that moment they would both be pretty much on the horizon, opposite of each other, and visible at the same time. It was wild, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was wild. It was wild. And you also do a lot of stuff. That Nature Institute you mentioned.
Yes.
We did a reading.
For the last 5 years, I've been working a lot with Natural Land Institute, and we came out with a little book called Natural Voices, with eyes opened wide. And it's been a really fun adventure. And surprisingly, it's one of those things where the book sold out the first night, and they actually went into a small second printing. Can you believe that? That never happens, but it did.
Yes, it does happen sometimes.
Yes.
But I remember we did that one reading out on another prairie, and
Oh yes, and that's Nigrin. That's actually Nigrin. I think it's called wetland, and that's part of the. That's under the auspices of the Natural Land Institute. And what's so wonderful about that, as you know, I really love it when poetry intersects with something else and isn't like just its own little clique. And I think you remember how very well received these readings are. I mean, I think there were probably a good, I don't know, I want to say 50 people. All the chairs were taken, and, the backdrop was wonderful. And I'll never forget when Wilda Morris read one night. She was reading a poem about a blue heron, and exactly the moment that she was reading that poem, a blue heron flew in back of her, and we could all see it. It was quite amazing.
But also,
a moment of magic.
There was also that one that we thought that there was going to be a huge storm.
There was a huge storm, and then there was an enormous rainbow.
It was
Was
enormous.
that a different time?
It was an enormous double rainbow.
Wasn't that amazing? Yeah. Of course, the problem was it was blowing the tent away.
Yeah.
It wasn't doing much for the reading, but it was a spectacular storm. No doubt about it.
It was a spectacular storm. It was a spectacular reading. Everything that people read was about nature. Why do you write so many nature poems?
Well, it's a little because I don't feel that I am above nature. I feel that I'm part of it. I feel in some ways sort of Native American in the sense that the animals and the birds, you know how the birds are in my backyard. They're practically tame. I just consider them equals. And so that's the world I live in. Even though I don't live way out in the country, I'm very, very at home with all of these creatures, and I love them dearly. So I write about it because it's what I think is really important, and it's what especially the whole idea of returning to the garden. One of the things I find interesting about this pandemic, not to be negative, but is that not that I would ever wish this on anyone at all. So nobody out there, please don't take this the wrong way. But ironically, it's helping air pollution. And ironically, things like pandas and different kinds of animals are flourishing because the human beings are not intruding on them as much. And so, that's just something I find interesting.
I think we're going to have a totally different world from the animals once we okay, I'm having some more tech problems here. Once we actually go and tech problems. Tech problems. We got tech problems. Okay, we got tech problems. I'm not sure what they are. Okay.
As in excess noise?
No, not any excess noise. I think that I lost my next guest.
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're here?
I'm here.
Where are you? Hi, you're here.
That's a very good question. I'm here.
Okay, I don't see you. Okay, Christine, give us.
I don't either.
Christine, give us a poem. I'm going to try to figure out what's going on here.
Okay. Well, since you mentioned the prairie, I have a little very old poem about being left behind and dumped by a boyfriend in the overjoyous sun. For good, I knelt in prairie grass, bending in your leaving, like the long clumps of asters or wind-blown tassels that scorched Indian summer before the terrifying sun, burning behind the glacial moor. Think of me as one who begs just once, then gives her grief to the sweet black earth that cradles November's sleep. Think of me as one who sleeps in the prairie, makes a pallet of wide grief, makes friends with winter, learns to wash her hands with ice. Think of me as a fallow field where redhawks glide and owls find mice with ease. Think of me as one who burns the prairie, whose courage may be slow but wide and complete.
Yay!
I don't think that's a poem you know.
No, I don't think I ever heard that one.
No. I thought I'd surprise you with it.
How long ago did you write that?
Oh, well, actually, it was in the Red Lacquer collection. So that would have been about, it would have shown up in that collection about 2010, which means that I could have written it anywhere 5 years until then, because it takes me about that long to get a collection together. But then I like big collections, so, So I'd say it's at least 15 years old, maybe longer.
We just had a tech problem. We had the screen frozen for a little bit because I didn't. I got to monitor this a little bit better. But I'd like to bring on our next guest so you and him could talk a little bit.
That sounds great.
Okay, here's our next guest. I need to pick him up and put him in front of the screen, and I think I need to do that and that and. I think that you might know this guy.
I do.
And I think he could talk now. Jared, are you with us?
I am with you. Can you see
Hi,
me?
Jared.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Last time I saw you, we were outside of Asheville at the Poetry Rendezvous.
That's right. That was a wonderful gathering. One of the few festivals I try to get to every year.
Now you guys, the Poetry Rendezvous. Who runs the Poetry Rendezvous?
It's run different. Well, the long-term sponsor is
That's been around for 30 years?
Yeah, something like that. And each year, poets from around the country come together and read and talk about poetry for 3 days or so, and get drunk together and come up with great new ways of writing. And then we all scatter to whatever parts of the country
And
we came from.
Jared, can you turn down the audio from Facebook there?
I don't have Facebook on.
Okay, we're getting like a feedback from somewhere. Okay, now it's gone. Can we? Okay. Huh.
I seem to be gone too.
No, you're still on screen.
Okay.
As long as you talk. Okay, the way this is set up is if you talk, you're on screen.
Okay.
So as long as you're talking, you're on screen.
Okay. I have to keep talking. There I am. Okay. Yeah, it's been going on for quite a while, and some very famous poets show up and read there. Everybody. We have a couple of workshops, and that's on a rotating basis. The chair of the festival is on a rotating basis each year, and it's held in different cities each year.
Christine, how many times have you been there?
I think I've only gone twice. I went to the one in Taos, New Mexico, 3 or 4 years ago, and that was kind of exciting. And then last year I went to the one that was outside of Asheville in Black Mountain. That had a lot of vibes. I tend to go when there's some place that I really want to see, some place where it's being held, because it's usually kind of a long way from here. So it makes it really fun when you can make a little vacation out of it too.
Absolutely.
So where did you two meet?
Oh, we go way back. I think it was when Jared was president of Poets and Patrons, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
And
that's right.
I think I gave a workshop there, I want to say at least 20 years ago, probably even longer than that. And we kind of got to chatting, and then I had him over to my house when I was doing more formal poetry salons, and I think we had a little luncheon, and he did a presentation for the group and was very well received. And so then our paths just have crossed off and on here and there. So I think I have most of your books, maybe even all of them. I'm talking to Jared now on this, so that's kind of the history as I remember it.
That's right. And then we haven't seen each other after I moved out to Colorado for a number of years until we ran into each other in Taos for the poetry festival there. And that was very nice.
Jared, how many books do you have?
14 right now. Hunting for a publisher for the 15th.
Wow.
14.
Wow, that might be some kind of record.
Well, no. Although there are 2 points I'm rather proud of there. I have gotten those books without being the editor of a publishing house myself, and they've all been published by commercial nonprofit presses. Nothing I paid for.
Are you still
That's nice.
Are you still involved in editing the New York Quarterly?
No, I'm not. I was involved with them for many years. I was on the advisory board of their founding editor, William Packard, the late William Packard. We were very good friends. And I left them when I moved from New York to Chicago. But then a couple years later, I rejoined as a board member and an and enjoyed it greatly and learned a lot from it. But I needed more time for my own writing. So I stepped down from that about, I don't know, 4 years ago.
Uh-huh. What was your last book? Collected Longer Works out of Michigan?
No, the last book I had was That's How It Is, which is from Spartan Press, and well, it's a branch of Spartan Press. It's called Stubborn Mule Press. The book you're thinking of was my collected poems, 1971 to 2011, and that was done by the New York Quarterly Press.
New York Quarterly Press. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Could you give us a poem?
I could give you a poem.
Okay, give us a poem. I'm gonna get somebody on the line.
Okay. I'll give you a poem I just finished. This is done just yesterday. A boy on a long dirt road. It is the time darkness rises from the earth, wades through the leaves of fescue grass, dapples the dandelions growing wild, and filters through magenta tulips, climbs stealthily the deep burrows lining the trunks of cottonwoods, wrapping their towering crowns that pull back into the wind of summer. A boy walks.
Okay, Jared's reading a poem right now, but as soon as he's done,
as dusty clouds
is it going
above his
good?
feet at each step, and it too is dark and growing deeper. There is probably a well-lit house just beyond
I
the
don't think I
next
can do
hill,
anything
the
now.
next turn.
But let's see how the speakerphone is going to sound too. I'm going to click right on when Jared's done.
Over a small rock, or catch his toe upon a
Okay.
broken root, but he keeps on.
Okay.
There is no turning back. And that is when darkness finds voice, as rosy finches return to their nests, and deer move along their hidden paths, and an owl somewhere begins
Hi, Tom.
its search. That is where
As soon as Jared's
pauses
done,
at
I'm going to
last
put you on
listen,
speakerphone.
aware of how the night
Okay, I don't know if
sees
the
him,
audience can hear me
the
or not, so
eyes
it's going to be a
that
surprise if
glisten
you're on for
from
everybody.
above. And it is then he fills his lungs
So when
with
you
the air
come on,
and
just say,
light of
"Hi, this is
evening,
Tom Willoughby."
and his steps resume on the hill that rose
Okay,
before
and
him is
just say
crested,
hi and be on for a
and the
couple
moon
minutes, and
comes
then
out,
we'll go on with the show.
there is no well-lit
Okay,
house,
so as
no
soon as he's done,
home,
you know Jared does
waiting
really
beyond
long poems.
bend, beyond what he will build somehow.
Are you guys watching? Okay, here we go. We're gonna put you on.
That's a kind of poetry where I feel we have to develop a new
Okay, hold on.
voice,
You ready?
a new way of looking at things that reflects the kind of tension our society is under right now, and perhaps has both a strong and yet a compassionate tone that feels the agony and the hope of the time we're in.
Okay, special guest, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, other special guest. Hold on. Technical problems here.
Please enter a number followed by the pound
Okay, I lost our special guest.
You lost Jared?
No, I had another special guest that I lost.
Oh,
Okay, let me try to get our special guest back on.
The other day,
Okay.
at the stair, I met a
Jared, can you hear
Hello?
me?
Yes, I can.
I'm,
Oh,
I'm going to try to put you back on.
well, here we
Here
are.
we go.
So
Hi,
I was,
are you on?
in what you were saying
Can you hear me?
about,
Can you hear me?
Voice showing the agony of
You know what?
the way we are living in so many ways, and I find that very challenging
Yes.
to write from the heart and not to write polemics during this time. Do you find that to be challenging too?
I do. Can I read one which addresses that specifically. And it's because we have to write listening to the people, what they're saying, and we're all in it. This is called There Is a Song in All Poetry. There is a song in my poetry. Every line, every stanza, every poem. Each poem an open aria in another. And they change one to the next, and 1 year to the next they change. One book becomes another, and each book becomes another song. The song of workers and looms and chains and sweat and heartbreak. But there is always the song. There is always the love, the sweet whisper of sun on mountain meadows, the deer pausing to drink at the stream, and the stream with its magenta flowers finding its way among dark stones that hold the night tight in their sides. And it is always so in each poem we write. There is a song that sings of us and of our homes and lives. There is a song that keeps us going, a song that has filled our literature and raised our institution. We have raised our institutions with, and that we sing to our children each night. It changes through the years, but it's there. I have not found how to write this song for the cold waves that rise around our ankles now, for the kind of sands that wrap about our feet at this time and in this dark place, but I will do so. Already I can hear the murmurs of others learning how.
Wow, I think I'm supposed to applaud.
Well, I think what I'm trying to say there is we learn to write for this time by listening carefully to everyone else. Listening to, because they're trying too. The poetry is a song of communication of the culture. And
Well, I've always enjoyed how your poetry digs so deep and has such a melodious flow to it. And I really admire that you kind of let it speak for itself. And I don't know when you stopped writing like more personal poems and sort of got into this more melodious flow of things. Is that something that you consciously did, or it just evolved?
I think it's a kind of evolution. I think
Mm-hmm.
that people write with different voices at different times in their lives. They change. If you're serious about poetry, you will do everything you can with the voice you have, and that voice will change. It will develop over time.
Well, it's interesting to me. I had sort of and I don't know if I'd call it a dry spell, but I wasn't writing quite as much as I used to. I kind of felt like I'd done an awful lot of writing. And with the pandemic, I was just, because you read a poem about kind of picking up on the vibrations, in a sense, of what was going on, I just was looking through this folder, and I realized that I'd written like 7 or 8 poems in the last 5 or 6 weeks, trying to express what it's been like, that having the sorrow and even some despair, but also some warm and humorous moments as well, and mixing those two things together in poetry. But now I think it's getting harder because it's going on and on. So it's just very interesting to me what gets a poet going, and how things change because of what's going on around you.
That's absolutely true, and I don't think it's. I mean, a poet does go through dry spells. I go through, when I finish a book, I go through a dry spell of a year or more usually, where I'm trying to assimilate changes in my life and find a language for those changes, or new visions and new understandings.
I find it's a really good time to submit the work or to get out and do readings. It's like this other person, this other skill takes over. I call it because I'm a woman, but I call it the secretary. The secretary takes over for a while and starts organizing and getting things done and sending things out and, more organizational kinds of things. And I know that if I don't do that, if I don't refresh myself by using that other part of being a poet in this particular world, I could actually I could probably go off the deep end if I just kept writing and writing and didn't stop. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. An awful lot of poetry is communication. It's kind of a song of the spirit. You have to communicate it, and you don't know if you're communicating it unless you're taking time to talk to an audience at a reading, sitting down and talking with other poets, reading other poets. My goodness, reading them is so important. Learning new ones all the time. But yeah, the secretarial part, as you put it, is important because you have to know, are people reading your poem the way you meant it, or have you gotten sloppy? Are you using cliched ideas that are new to you, or are they new to other people as well?
Well, and I find that it's important for me at least. And I don't think it's necessarily important for all poets. I'm just speaking strictly for myself. But I think it's important that what I'm saying reflects what other people are probably feeling as well. So that it's not just a personal voice, but it's also partly a collective voice. And that's one of the things I was hoping was happening in this series that I'm doing on, living through the coronavirus. And the poems are not really filled with despair, and they're not particularly dark, although there are moments of that. Because when I look around, I see the same thing that you do. People really rising to the occasion, and I live in Rockford. It's not a metropolis, so to speak. So there's a lot of dog walking, and gardening, and just people out in their yards, and neighbors talking to each other from across the street. And I kind of want to reflect that part of it as well.
Yes.
How is it out in Colorado?
Do poets have a job to do? Does poets have a job to do
like
right
David.
now?
That was David. Yeah. I don't know. I think there are different kinds of poetry. I think maybe a poet has to do the job for himself or herself first. The poet has to find their own voice built from their own experience and those of people who are important to them. The poetry is a overstatement of the morality of our nation.
One of the poems that I wrote during this time was kind of in answer to your question, David. Do poets have a job to do? And I would add to that, and if so, is it very important in a time like this? And I was really thinking about that because I have friends that are working at food banks and doing things that, because I live with people who are high risk, I cannot be in that position to expose other people. And the poem is called, I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'm just going to tell you about it a little bit, Confessions During the Age of Corona and the National Poetry Month, because I think it's so odd that those two things would be occurring at the same time. And it begins with poetry is the mouth beneath the mask, and then it goes from there.
Wow.
I think the things that we're not saying and the things that are hidden, and what poetry can do and what it can't do. It's a balm but not a cure, that sort of thing. So I was thinking a lot about that. So funny you asked that question, Dave.
It's something I've been thinking about because I'm trying to use poetry to fight despair in the world. I mean, I think that's something that's really important for us to do.
made me get on Facebook, which I have since learned to love. And I've never really posted poems on Facebook. It just was not my thing. But during this particular season of Corona, I have been posting things that I've written, and I have gotten so many wonderful responses, mostly from non-writers, but occasionally from writers. That really thrills me, because what it says to me is that it's speaking to people who are not necessarily like me. They don't necessarily have an MFA in writing, but they're getting what's being said here, and it's uplifting them. And then people are saying that, or they're understanding it, and they were glad that they read it. And never in my wildest dreams did I think, posting poems on Facebook would be so rewarding. And I think it's for exactly that reason, because I think they're searching for something other than a lot of politics, because everybody's so sick of that now. And it's like, well, there's not much more we can do. We all know how we really feel. And poetry takes you to a place that is more original than any kind of a party line or any kind of a complaint, although you can complain in a poem too. So that's been a real surprise to me during this time.
I think if you can carry that, I absolutely agree with you. And you can carry it a little further when you realize that in our day-to-day lives and in listening to the media, we use just a handful of words each day. We don't really think about them. When the coronavirus crisis started, and even today, of course, then it's different. We're trying to think of something new, even in the media. But generally, people will relate to each other on a commercial sense, for the most part. Like, what do you want from me? What will it cost? What can I sell you? What can I buy from you? How's the weather? And that doesn't even begin to touch the complexity and majesty of what a human is and of human experience. And poets create new language that tries to that makes people think in new ways. So as you said, it takes them away from the media and allows them to discover themselves.
And what I'm finding surprising and delightful and refreshing about this is that I know that many of the people that are on my Facebook, former teachers or former students, a number of my Italian relatives, they think of poetry as a sort of Hallmark card thing. They want either a little rhyme or a platitude or something, very predictable. And of course, most of us try not to do that the best we can anyway. But that's what's been surprising me. They've been responding to this even though there are no platitudes in it, even though I don't even use words like despair and hope in the poems, And so I don't know, I think it's just been an eye-opener to me that if, as it was what Obama used to say, regular folks, if regular folks could hear this kind of thing or see this kind of thing more often, I think it would be really good for everybody.
Hey, folks.
So, I think, it's been a revelation to me that the poetry has been so well received on Facebook. It has.
That's one of the wonderful things. It gets back. You go all the way back to Walt Whitman. He says, "I sing myself," but the I there was all the people who were not poets, who were workers, who were housewives, young men, soldiers. Most of the world and most of human experience takes place outside of the classrooms, outside of the MFA and whatnot. You may go to your MFA program to learn the craft.
Hey, folks.
Yes.
Jared and Christine. I'd like to bring a visitor online if I could. So we're going to have a visitor dropping in to see us.
Fantastic.
And he should be on in a second. He should be here in a second.
I'm right there, ain't I, Dave?
Yes, you're here.
Yes, you are. Hey, how you doing, Buddha?
I'm all right, Jared. Long time no see, man.
Yeah, fantastic.
I love the chapeau.
David, do you think it's important to write and inspire people during these times?
You know, it's been tough because I've been blocked for months now. And I've written a couple of things, and I don't know if it's our job to inspire or maybe entertain, divert a little bit. I think that we're all stuck in the coronavirus rut, and we're looking for distractions away from it. I've been watching romantic comedies, for instance, just to get my mind off of that. Right? I think we need more humor, more fun stuff. Maybe more of the kids' poetry that you write, Dave.
I've been thinking about this Puddin'head Kids thing on Saturday afternoons, but I don't know exactly what the copyright percussions would be to like read a Dr. Seuss poem. And
I wonder if Dr. Seuss is still under. He probably still is under copyright.
yeah, there was a Sonny Bono law that extended the copyrights, and that Sonny Bono law like covers Dr. Seuss at this point.
I don't know it.
Would it matter if you're not making any profit off of it?
Um,
It's not like you're charging people to come hear you read the poem or anything, you know?
they could tell us to stop doing it. Basically.
Yeah. I mean,
They could probably take away all the money you made from writing poetry, Dave.
Well,
That's
technically, if it's copyrighted in the Copyright Office, they could sue for damages.
That's right. But no one ever believes that. And I don't know if you've ever had this experience, Jared. Have you ever discovered that somebody's posted your work without ever asking you and that you don't even know them?
Oh, yeah.
happened to me at a reading.
No reading?
Did somebody read one of your pieces?
And an audience member caught it because the audience member was one of the offended poet's students.
Oh my. Well, I actually discovered one of my poems by accident. I was Googling, I was trying to find something that I was on, and I'd Googled it, and something else came up, and I discovered a poem that I'd written in 1985 on a Canadian woman's webpage. It was about a lighthouse. And she did have my name on it. I mean, it wasn't like she stole it and put her name on it. But I have no idea who this person is. I have no idea where she got the poem. So I wrote to her, because you can, there's a way sometimes with websites you can contact them. She had absolutely no clue that that was illegal. I have a feeling it happens a lot.
Yeah, but it's it's an honor at the same time.
That's one way to look at it, and kind of what I told her was, I really appreciate that you really like this poem. Just so you know, in the future, you need to let the person know you're going to use it or ask for permission.
You should ask permission. Absolutely.
On the upside, she actually credited you with writing it, so yeah, that's something.
Yeah, I mean it was, but it was odd because I would never dream of doing that. I mean, I would never dream of just randomly putting somebody who is not in the public domain, Although when you think of it, though, people put like Mary Oliver poems on their websites all the time, so maybe the times are changing. But I was always taught that if it was copywritten, it was illegal, even if you put their name or anything to use it. It's not the same as plagiarism, but it is It is a copyright issue. I just don't think anybody plays by those rules
Okay,
anymore. except for
we
social
have
media.
a
Everything has
Facebook
changed so much.
comment here from a lawyer, and he says could be liable for presumed damages.
Yeah.
Dr. Seuss
Mhm.
heirs would not have to prove your profiteering or their loss.
No,
It
it's just
used
the point.
to
You
be
cannot use someone else's
it
work.
used to be
It's not yours.
$20,000. Now it's up to $100,000
Yep.
if we use it without permission.
But it doesn't happen with poets. I don't know of any poets that it's ever happened to. I do know of a children's story writer that sued and won a lot of money. But that's a little different, you know.
Yes, no poet has that kind of money.
$6 off of poetry, right?
Right.
And there are licenses you can get, for example, if you run a coffee house, to be able to use music without that. But I don't really understand the logistics of it, but I think people can do that, but they have to pay for that license.
Yeah, it's a passive entertainment license, and the
Something like
money is
that. But
distributed
I have
from
no
the
idea.
office.
I just play by the rules. That's all.
And you develop a reputation for playing by the rules, and it's important. It's a matter of integrity. And if we as poets
I think so, too.
don't respect each other enough to treat each other honestly and with dignity, how can we expect anyone else to take poetry seriously?
Right. But on the other hand, I will say, if I put something on Facebook and someone shared it, then I would not consider that any kind of problem. Because I put it there knowing full well it could be shared. So that's a little different. And I think that was one of the reasons I was a little frightened of doing it in the first place. But then as long as your name's on it and it came from you, I think that's okay then. That's a little different with social media. I don't know that it's happened yet, but
if you put a
things have changed a lot.
Or on the web at all, you're basically saying it's okay to copy it, folks.
Technically,
How many times it gets shared?
technically on Facebook, if you post something on Facebook, you're giving them the right to giving everyone on Facebook the right to share it. You're
Right,
still
that's
supposed
what
to
I-
keep
that's
your
what I
name
meant.
connected with it.
That would be an exception because it's like you own it and you're saying here it is, and if you want to share it, that's fine. But that's a little different than somebody seeing your work in New York Quarterly, like you say, and all of a sudden it turns up on a website in Nova Scotia without your permission. That's very odd to me somehow.
One thing that can happen there, and I've seen it happen with my work, is the magazine can sue. Like the New York Quarterly can sue. And as a matter
Yes.
of fact, when you put out, certainly when the New York Quarterly book press puts out a book, you have a long contract saying this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, this is when we'll sue you or whoever did thus and such. It's a very good, strong legal contract. The small independent presses, which really discover good new poetry, mostly can't do that. They mostly don't have the resources.
And the other thing is, since David, you would be in that category, you probably wouldn't mind as much either, right?
If somebody stole anything, no, I would use all my resources and spend $20-$30 to try to defend my poets.
Exactly. But, for example, if one of my pieces turned up on, some Chicago website, but you were not credited, but I was, how upset would that make you?
No, I mean my poets are my poets, and I will defend them, but I don't necessarily need the credit.
So, yeah. I think that's more or less what Jared was saying, right?
Well, we in Chicago we got a way to deal with that.
You get whacked. No.
We come and visit you.
We go to war? What?
No, you get whacked.
David, I was just thinking about that. Remember the Poetry Wars when you gave me my rank and everything like that?
I almost feel like we're in poetry wars again. We're in a war.
Yeah, but who are we fighting?
Um,
I mean, really, we're fighting for our own survival right now because there aren't any venues for us to perform at.
Well, this is the venue of the future. I think this kind of doing a show like Dave's doing here, or like Charlie Roster has up in on Mike Poetry thing. He runs out of Vermont. This is.
wait, everybody say hello to everybody. Everybody say hello to Bromnan. Everybody say hello to Bromnan and Michael and Kathleen and Anna Hussein.
Hello.
Say hello to
Thanks for
everybody.
tuning in.
And you know, it's kind of. I'm looking at the clock on the wall. Where did I put the clock on the wall? Somewhere here, there's a clock on the wall.
You got it.
You want to believe what my office looks like, but somewhere there's a clock on the wall here. And can you guys read one more poem, and then I'm gonna read a poem for a memorial poet, and then we'll do this again sometime. This was fun.
That sounds neat.
This was really cool.
Absolutely. This is new stuff. Who would like to go first? I read two.
Well, somebody else MC, because I got to go do something right now.
Jared, I'm having a little trouble hearing you. What did you just say?
Yeah,
I was saying.
Jared. Some people on the internet has complained about not being able to hear you well. So if you could get a little bit closer to the mic.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can, but I'm on to Zoom with you.
Yeah. Well, let me.
That's louder. That is louder.
Okay. Let me read like the sun over primeval earth. This is from that. This is from That's How It Is by Spartan Press. I like to think of sunshine coming over the mountains and filling each green fiber that grows with a distance of uncounted miles. But justice starts before that because of the lives that settle into the silt of oceans and the oh so slow grinding of continental grit and the seeds that were planted.
I've lost you, Jared.
What?
And the seeds that were planted millennia ago. The earth rolling over into itself, rising upward toward where the air is more thin and pure. And those seeds begin then to branch out as lichen, and moss springs at last from almost lifeless rock. So that after time has been forgotten, gone unmeasured, those soft and vulnerable green tendrils begin to reach that sun that came from beyond memory and beyond meaning. Like this, I think of genetic memory beyond time, and of the seeds of human misunderstanding reaching out and trying to carry human growth one more step beyond this pitiful bag of rags we carry on our bone. We try, but in the
Jared, I've lost your voice.
Jared, we can't hear you really well. I don't know if you can hear me at all.
I couldn't hear you. I can't hear you at all now.
I don't know.
Okay. Finish up.
I got no problem.
I did not change the.
I can hear you now.
volume before we started. You can hear me now.
But not now.
Okay, Christine, I don't think that's my phone, but let me check some tech over here. Let me
No, I
check.
can hear you. I
Let
just
me
can't
check
hear
this
Jared.
phone here. I don't know. Okay, Jared, finish your poem.
Okay.
It is quiet on the internet. I can hear the internet.
I know it is the little things unnoticed that go on, that get passed from one generation to another. One Harriet Tubman, one Martin Luther King, one Kennedy, one Gandhi, one starving justice that brings peace to those we never know.
Yes.
Beautiful. I always love to hear you read, and I can always hear the Walt Whitman. That you kind of remind me of Walt Whitman.
We have another visitor.
The influence of Walt Whitman.
We have another visitor, everybody.
Oh, yes?
Yes, she's joining us. Who do you think it might be?
Carolyn Johnson, maybe.
It's Carolyn. How do you know it's Carolyn Johnson?
I can read it on my screen.
Okay.
Hi there, Carolyn.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Hi.
Hi, Carolyn.
We've been having an occasional sound problem on this, but it's been going pretty well. I think the video feed's cutting in and out a tiny bit, but in all, it's been going pretty good.
Is that better?
No, we can hear you okay.
Okay.
I wanted you to talk about poets and patrons a little bit, because we've all been judges on the Poets and Patrons contest, and I wanted you to tell us a little about Poets and Patrons. How do we join?
Yeah, well, it's been really a wonderful conversation you guys are having, and we have this link because Jared is past president of Poets and Patrons, and he's also, last year he was a judge for our contest. He's going to be a judge this year for our social conscious category. So Jared is kind of a background of Poets and Patrons, which is wonderful. By the way, I have several of his books, and I have several of Christine's books too, and I love them all. And I just want to I remember seeing a play in Naperville that was made out of Jared Smith's words, his poetry about Lake Michigan, and that was really neat.
Well, thank you, Carolyn. And that book was published by Dave Getchik.
Oh, really?
Oh, was it?
Lake
I
Michigan
think
and
I
other
take that
poets.
one.
You could get it on the website.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like,
Wait.
and the play was all, to my knowledge, just like in verse. The play was
Yes.
in verse. Yeah, it's really neat.
Every word in the dialogue of that play was a line in the poem. Every line in the book Dave published, or in the poem there, the title poem there, was in the play, and those are the only lines in the play.
Yeah, it was kind of a surreal experience. It was really neat.
David Leitner was a producer on that, and yeah, it was a neat experience, a mixed media type thing. We had some original music and songs that were added by other people.
There's a small theater, like I think they did comedy there too. They did different things. And,
Was it at the Peabody Mansion, or was it out in Naperville?
It was
No,
out
it
in
was
Naperville.
in Naperville.
Okay.
Yeah, in like right downtown there, like across from the Barnes and Noble.
It's very nice theater. They do have a long-running comedy improv there too. And they probably thought that's what this was originally, but you never know. But it was, I think people liked it, and it was fun to work with other people on the music and the songs.
Carolyn, could you get a little bit closer to the mic at all?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're the quietest one.
I could probably turn it off. Let's see.
You're the quietest one. Jared is the second quietest one.
I'm amazed. Are you listening to it on Facebook? Or?
I'm listening to it on Facebook. That's why I have this thing sticking in my ear.
Yes. Okay. Well, I don't have no idea what it would sound like on Facebook.
Well, you're just getting in whatever through Zoom, so I don't know. Is that better? Try to speak up.
I don't know. There's like a 2-minute delay before I hear anything. Jared, you're exceptionally quiet. Okay.
What?
I have no idea what's going on.
So I'm trying to turn up the sound. I don't know if it's going to Can
Okay.
you hear me okay now?
I can hear you.
I'm listening to you over Zoom, so it's very clear over
Oh,
Zoom.
input. There we go.
Yeah.
Huh.
How we sounding on the
Oh,
Facebook
okay. Yes,
page?
I can hear you.
Jared's quiet.
I'm not talking right now.
Well, what were you talking 2 minutes ago?
I heard that.
'Cause that's what they've been listening to.
Ah.
'Cause of the delay.
Okay, there is some technical difficulties I'm working on, okay?
In case one of us wants to swear or promote some kind of
There's probably censorship there, yeah.
Okay. Because I know that when I'm stuck in a time delay, I like to drink lots of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. brought to
Okay,
you by
the only way I know how to fix this is to push you guys really close to the camera. Okay,
Yeah, like that.
and I push you guys a little bit closer, so it's gonna move around a little bit.
No, he means physically on our individual devices.
No.
Yes.
I mean, we can get in close and it's not going to make a difference.
I don't know.
To move the actual
Okay,
electronic
okay. Next time you guys are on, I'll have a better microphone system and a better speaker kind of
Yeah,
thing.
but you know, if that's it's the second time you've done this, right?
It's second and a half. I'm kind of making it up as I go along.
You know, we're gonna have to hammer some stuff out as we go.
That's right.
Well,
Since
well,
when does a poetry show ever run smoothly?
it's been fun though. I've had fun. Have you guys had fun?
Absolutely. And it's so good seeing everybody again.
The best part about doing it this way is that it starts on time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Like I said last time, it's like having a drink with old friends.
Carolyn, how can we
Absolutely.
join Poets and Patrons? And what is Poets and
You can
Patrons
go on our
doing?
Website. We have an awesome website, poetsandpatrons.net. What we're doing is we're still promoting our contest, which the deadline September 1st. We're going to have the rules up probably in early May. But it's poetsandpatrons.net, and it has a lot of information about the history of the organization and the kind of workshops we lead and the just things that we do mostly in Chicago. So,
But there's no workshops planned right now or scheduled
yeah,
for.
we're not doing the Zoom thing with our workshops like some people are, but we are, so the workshops have been, of course, canceled indefinitely, but we are promoting our contest, and so that's what we're really focusing on at this point. And there's 14 categories, plus we have a Sonic contest that has 2 categories. So there's really 16 possible categories that poets can enter. I mean, we have some, typical categories like, formal verse, free verse, but then we have social conscience and nature. But we also have like a category this year called aches, like aches and pains. And we're having another category dedicated to healthcare workers for the coronavirus. And it's basically, if anyone gets inspired to write about healthcare workers, they can enter that category. So we have some kind of interesting, different categories this year.
Yeah, how you guys come up with 14, I have no idea.
I don't know. Maybe we're inspired by the sonnets, 14 lines for a sonnet.
Yeah, well, when I do the pentathlon, I have problems coming up with 5.
Well, some of our categories, like free verse get a lot of entries, but some of ours really, to be honest, brutally honest with you, we don't get a whole lot of entries.
Okay, Carolyn, what's the easiest one to win that has the least amount of entries?
Well, the easiest ones are the more obscure ones, or even the Chicago focus. Like last year, we had a Chicago any aspect, like anything that had to do with Chicago. We don't have as many entries on there because the contest is a national contest, and so they don't always know as much about Chicago as people who live in the area. Or like this category I just said, aches and pains. I can guarantee you that's not going to get a whole lot of entries. So if you are in some way have an idea for that, you probably have a decent chance.
I got aches and pains all the time. I carry my crosses very well.
So you'll have to.
Oh, you got first place there, Dave.
You get extra points if you use the word lumbago.
Okay,
Okay, well, I want to hear a poem from Buddha, and then I want to hear a poem from Carolyn, and then I'm going to kick everybody off but Christine, and then I want to hear a poem from Christine because the old clock on the wall is ticking away. So, Buddha.
Ticking are we?
Buddha, give us a. Well, we got a 4-hour limit on Facebook Live, and the feed has been pretty good. I'm afraid of running out of memory on my cell phone, so I won't be able to keep this very well.
I'm not doing a poem by me tonight. I'm going to do a poem by Leslie Heath Morrow.
Who's he?
Leslie Heath Morrow was a poet in the Village in the '60s. Not a lot of published work. He was a guerrilla poet, like to write it on tables in coffee shops and stuff like that. This poem doesn't have a title. It's called by Providence. Found by a demolition crew wrapped around a vintage engagement ring inside an unmarked box, Bristol, Rhode Island. Outside the pawn shop on 8th Avenue, I watch, gawking with a pocket full of quarters and hands, the rings on the countertop telling tales of Scott and Zelda, perused by yesterday's mad cow butcher, mornings, marriages, and monetary concerns. She slips the cash into road-weary jeans and lingers. Entering this place, a collection of Delchanted dreams, bruised eyes, tickets to somewhere else, dreams traded for elusive dreams, legacy of the Fitzgeralds sit in a shadow box of the memories discarded. We will never meet again. That was Leslie Heath Morrow, ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
That's beautiful, David.
Bromnan Shumway just
Yeah.
left us. She said this
you
was.
mentioned Fitzgerald, it reminded me of Fitzgerald's and Berwin. Too.
As opposed to F. Scott and Zelda.
Well, that too, yes.
Bromnan Shumway just left us. She said this was edifying. And Bromnan Shumway said, Jared, so good to hear your voice again. I remember kissing your cheek at your going away reading in Chicago.
Bronman, you're wonderful.
And we've had some. We haven't had any major difficulties. I don't think. I think the video feed has been pretty strong. The audio has been on and off questionable. But you know, I think this was pretty good. And I think Carolyn owes us a poem if you have one.
Okay, so this is a poem I wrote fairly recently. You guys might know that my husband is very musical, and sometimes we play music together. So this is called Self-Portrait as Music. And there's 3 sections. It's not too long, though. So this is section 1. A portal that opens the mind. She perfumes the air when I play piano, helps me weep for the dead. Like the wind in a spring kennel deep inside, she hides until ushered forth in bold crescendos. I carry her melodies in my pocket, marbleize them on tattooed skin, improvise notes on bluer days. Chord rich, she helps me sing guitar duets with my partner, reach for high notes, higher than crime and violence on TV news. 2. The conductor raises his baton, her symphony begins. The hollow canal of my heart splashes with painted turtles, each measure a roller coaster of applied physics, each aria an algebraic equation to solve. Have I been ignoring my own music? Am I afraid of the viola of my body? The harps play on as I stray from the song, only to return again. A still lake, some ripples, one lone swan, the call of geese. I am no longer a lonely gondola. 3. Listen, there will come a day when the world needs your music too. When the concert ends, a glissando of harp strings floats to the ocean. You will climb to the top of your ship's mast, admire the vastness of the sea, the rare jazz of waves. Wind chimes portend a new song. My whole life has been one sad sonata. Red rover, let songbirds come over. Let me close my eyes and alchemize into a duet of pure air. I foresee the day she disappears, the night music ends. no deep baritone sotto voce to whisper gently a Gershwin tune that has no words, just the pinging of raindrops pelting on the roof. So I know it's a little long. I apologize.
Wow.
Very nice.
Oh, Carolyn, that was absolutely virtuoso. And I mean that in the best way. You have so much intelligence and cadence, and it's just beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, everybody, everybody, I'm kicking everybody off except Christine right now. I'm kicking all the Zoom people off. So, I love you, Zoom people.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Thank you. We'll do this again really soon, probably in like 2-3 weeks. I'll get you guys back on. Next week we're gonna do JJ's thing. If I could figure out how to make it just a little bit better.
I'm gone.
David, you're wonderful. And what happens is the person who talks is always like it's not on the way I have it set up is always featured on Zoom. I want to check our sound really quick because we've been working pretty well. Hi, Christine.
Hello, David.
Did you have fun?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna get rid of Zoom. I'm gonna do that by doing this. Okay.
Okay.
I just banged into you. Okay, this is a really Mickey Mouse
Long distance,
operation.
right. So did you want me to read a poem?
I would like you to read a poem, and I wanted to thank you for being on.
Okay.
And
Thank
I
you.
hope you had fun, and I hope this and I love the conversations that you had with Jared, etc.
Yes, we could have gone on and on,
I
right?
know you could have gone on, and if I was on a computer and I could schedule it out, I would have let you guys go on and on.
Oh, sure. It was fun.
But on my cell phone, if I want to save this, we're pushing the limit, and I want to repost it on Facebook. I want to repost it on YouTube, and I could only do a high resolution if I could save it on my cell phone. There's all these weird things going on that I don't know anything about, so there's probably a way to get around all this, but I'm an idiot. I just run a show, okay, and a show is a show, and this was a show. So thank you for being on it, and read us a poem, and then I'm kicking you off, and I'm having a memorial to a dead poet.
Okay. I'm going to read a poem that I wrote about 2 weeks ago, and it's not full of despair, although it is a coronavirus poem.
No despair.
It happened that we had a tornado right in the middle of this all, and so it all came together. And this is called "Forgetfulness, Stream of Consciousness in the Age of Corona." From time to time, I forget we are sheltered in place. Partly, this is because at age 70, I am mostly sheltered in place anyway, becoming more domestic, even Zen-like, with simple chores like laundry, dusting, and gardening. Today in the garden, raking wet leaves, discovering all the life beneath the tree, the snowdrops that made it through last week's tornado that didn't hit, but sent us into the basement, sirens screaming, the crocus surprises buried by squirrels, the promises of lilies, hostas, and so forth. Soaking up the vitamin D, the sun, the wind more manageable, I forgot. I mean, completely forgot. That just this morning I had to learn how to order online groceries for delivery, whether to wear gloves picking up prescriptions, whether cardboard really does harbor virus. You know what I mean. The questions with the answer always, experts disagree. But today I let the wind tousle my thick dark hair, let it make me a gypsy, a shaman, a gardens. Let it give me one small moment of freedom before I snap to my damn senses, lose the poetic reverie, before I push myself to my limits, pulling lily hairs out in bunches, so satisfying, shaping the Lenten rose, resurrecting before me.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, David.
I don't know if you hear this beep, beep, beep going on, too. The beep, beep, beep is a signal that the battery's running out on your speakerphone. So...
well, I'm not on the cell phone, so I don't know how that can be.
But my equipment is running out.
Okay.
So
I'll let you go.
I'm kicking you offline. I will call you tomorrow. I love you.
Okay.
Thank you for being on.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
That's almost the show for tonight. I'm gonna have to lighten up the mood a little bit, and then I'm gonna have to darken up the mood a little bit. You see, at the Gallery Cabaret, I run a thing called History of Chicago Poetry on Facebook. And at the Gallery Cabaret, I started this thing where we always read the poetry of a departed poet. And we had Gregory Curry die recently, so I want to do a quick memorial to Gregory Curry. That's John Dixon in the background. And above him you could see a picture that Dan Cleary drew of me. So that's my buddy Dan Cleary drew that picture. But I want to do this for my friend Greg Curry right now. We have gathered the talismans. We have lit the candle. And I want to call upon the gods of poetry, evil though they may be, to help bring us the spirit of our fallen brother through a reading of his poetry. Tonight we're going to remember Gregory Curry. Gregory Curry died last month. He missed all the madness, and he was an important poet for the poetry scene because he ran some venues, and he ran some really successful venues, and he was always at different venues. He was at the Green Mill, he was at the Heartland Cafe, he was at Heirloom Books, he was featured all over the place, and he had such passion for poetry that because of that, he will be a flame that is missed. This is by Gregory Curry. It's a lighter poem by him. It's called Forts. And I hope I have enough light in here. Okay, that's a little bit better or worse. Forts. For some unstable arena of childhood practice, at some point it came clear that a survival tactic was to hide, I don't know what from. I would build pillow forts on couches and peer out through tiny openings to watch cartoons with which the amount I watch now, it seems I need to have children, as it is the only way I can justify the amount I watch. Boxes were spaceships. Couches were castles. Neighbors' cats were villains we had to assault with our cat guns. We never heard of global warming. First-person singular shootings are actually of the human ability in cases like the Holocaust of Pol Pot. Not yet spent time pondering in European cathedrals, or if Kafka was right, before the transformation, we were kids that had not yet been awkward. Middle school dances where the girls were on one side of the gymnasium and the boys on the other, and they were all taller than us. We are the last generation that remembers using payphones. Take my hand. That remembers our version to clarify our version of the Kennedy assassination. When the towers fell in northern New Jersey at the county college as the dust was falling, my professor still held the accounting class as though nothing had happened. Take my hand. Drones are now a real thing and being used. Take my hand. More voted for the initial season of American Idol than in the last election. Take my hand. Remember when we were just kids in the blue jean 505s and t-shirts. As you get older and things proceed to happen, parents get divorced. When you're no longer responsible for you growing up in varying shades of Xanax, school shootings, war, and towers falling, meet me at my place. I've bought 8 extra pillows for just such an occasion. Our forts can still stand if we remember how to build them. Our forts can still stand if we remember how to build them. That was a poem by Gregory Curry. Thank you, Gregory. Thank you for sharing your poetry with us. And that's our show for tonight. And go to Chicago Poetry. Go to History of Chicago Poetry. Go to puddin'headpress.com. Puddin'headpress.net or puddin'headpress.com. We just started carrying the Happy Taper magazine, so check that out. Buy a copy of Happy Taper, and you could buy copy 6 in advance if you send me an email. We'll get you copy number 6 when it comes out. And I plan on doing a lot of work in my other businesses this week, unfortunately. But I'm going to be pushing some more used books, and by next weekend I might have another poetry newsletter. So sign up for the poetry newsletter, phbooks@att.com. And I hope you had a good time tonight. And thanks for coming, everybody. And this is Greg Curry's book.